you just a little bit on.
I won't touch that.
Could I just press you on what Erdogan said? I mean, he was very clear. He said U.S.-led coalition forces give support to terrorist groups, including ISIS, including YPG, PYD. They were accusing us of supporting Daesh.
Let me address that.
He was very clear.
Let me address that. So we do provide tactical support to the Syrian Democratic Forces. There's no surprise there. We've been very transparent about that. That's to help us all achieve our shared goal of defeating Daesh. The Syrian Democratic Forces have, as we've said many times, proven to be a very capable force against Daesh, and our support for them, again, our tactical support for them will continue. As we've also said before, we've never provided weapons to the YPG, we have provided equipment to vetted Arab elements of the Syrian Democratic Forces. This equipment has, someone's waking up, this equipment has included ammunition and other tactical equipment to assist the coalition's counter-ISIL operations. But let me be clear that we reject any group providing support to the PKK or enabling its terrorist campaign within Turkey.
Or Daesh. Because he's saying that you guys gave support to Daesh.
Daesh, I said that from the outright. That's just ludicrous. I don't know where that comes from.
More questions?
About Turkey?
Yes, same subject. Thank you, Mark.
Sure.
Today there are some reports that Russia indeed gave some air support around the Al-Bab. Do you have any information on that?
I don't have any information on that. I mean, I'll look into it, but obviously the Russians and Turks have been talking about coordination, but I don't have anything to confirm.
In the past, very recent past, you defined this Turkey moves around the Al-Bab as uncoordinated and not constructive. Do you still see Al-Bab offense as uncoordinated and not constructive, or what's your view on it?
No, I'd say now, we're in regular discussions with Turkey on the operations around Al-Bab. We want to help it defeat Daesh. I think there was a recent visit by the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, excuse me, Dunford, who met with Turkey's chief of staff, or chief of defense, excuse me. And as I said, Special Envoy Brett McGurk, also visited Ankara before the holidays to talk about the overall campaign to defeat Daesh. So I don't want to discuss ongoing operations, but we're obviously coordinating with them.
One more talking point, sure, that on the Turkey pro-government media very often used and cited that the President-elect Trump stated that the President Obama and his administration fund ISIS and supported ISIS, so that the Turkey now repeating this. What's your response to this declaration?
I don't know where those claims are coming from. Maybe some comments from the campaign. I honestly don't know what they're referring to. I don't think President-elect Trump has ever made that allegation. And as I said, if he did, it was probably from a long time ago. I don't think he's made it again. But again, I can't speak for the President-elect's team.
The final question: Turkey, Iran, and Russia are going to convene this new Syria talks in Astana, Kazakhstan,
yes,
early 2017. Have you been invited? And
I don't believe so.
How do you view those talks?
I mean, we talked a little bit about this before when they were first announced. Look, we're not against any effort to coordinate more closely on the multiple conflicts taking place in Syria. And by multiple conflicts, I mean, obviously, destroying and disabling Daesh, but also the civil war. And of course, the terrible fighting around Aleppo over the past few weeks. As long as it produces results, we talk frequently with the Turks. We talk frequently with the Russians. We've also long said that in order to reach some kind of resolution of the conflict in Syria, all of the stakeholders need to agree and need to talk to each other. So the fact that Turkey and Russia are holding these kinds of talks is not necessarily something we would disapprove of.
But the U.S. won't be on the table. And
I understand that, but as I said, we're obviously talking closely with and communicating frequently with both Russia and with Turkey.
In this regard, Mark,
I'm sorry.
Russia's foreign ministry has said today that Minister Lavrov has discussed a peace plan for Syria with Secretary Kerry today. Do you have any readout for this phone call?
No, they did speak earlier today. I didn't get a full readout from that conversation. I'm not sure that, frankly, that they discussed Syria, so I'm not sure if it was today or
That's what they said, that they discussed
That's what he said.
a peace plan for Syria.
Honestly, I got a very partial readout. I apologize, but I don't believe Syria was mentioned. If that's incorrect, I'll raise it, or
Well,
Was it about?
I think they talked about Libya.
Okay.
about Libya. Because the ministry also said that Lavrov informed Kerry that a U.S. decision to ease some restrictions on arming Syrian rebels may lead to more casualties. They've also said that it could open the way for the delivery of, shoulder-fired anti-aircraft missiles.
Yeah, this is, look, this is something that was in I think the consent was, or the language was in the National Defense Authorization bill that they've been, is this what they're referring to? I believe so.
Yeah.
We've been
That's
very
right.
clear.
Yeah.
My point is, this is not a new allegation that we've seen from them. And, the fact is that we're not providing any kind of man-pads or anything to the Syrian opposition.
And they consider this a hostile act, as the foreign ministry, Russian foreign ministry has said.
Right, but again, we've seen this before, this language before, this kind of rhetoric. Our position on man-pads has not changed. We would have a very deep concern about that type of weaponry getting into Syria.
No, well, PKK question. On the PKK, there have been repeated stories over the past months in the Iraqi and Kurdish media that Baghdad is paying the PKK in the Sinjar area to train local fighters, the Singal resistance units. Today, it's reported that Baghdad and Ankara are discussing that, and Baghdad has agreed to stop paying them and help get the PKK out of Sinjar if Turkey withdraws from Bashir. Since you've said, and KGR officials have also said, the PKK shouldn't be in Sinjar, have you pressed Baghdad to stop paying those salaries or providing any support to the PKK?
So, excuse me, I apologize. I don't want to speak necessarily to the direct allegations that they're somehow they're paying these groups. We believe that the PKK, which is a U.S. designated terrorist organization, should have no role in Sinjar. We regard their presence there as a major obstacle to reconciliation, as well as to refugee return, to the return of internally displaced people. And we urge all groups active in Sinjar to facilitate political reconciliation so that these IDPs, these internally displaced people, can return, and that the communities that they were driven from can begin to rebuild. And we urge continued close cooperation between the central government in Baghdad and the Kurdistan regional government to defeat Daesh and to resolve any other outstanding issues between them. In terms of whether Baghdad supports the PKK, that's something, it's a question you have to ask the government of Iraq. We believe that the government shares our concern over restoring stability in Sinjar and oppose the PKK presence there. Let's go to Asia.
Mark,
Let's
just-
finish up.
yeah,
Okay,
this-
one more, and then we're going back to this patient crew back here.
Okay, thank you. About this remarks blaming U.S. for supporting ISIS. This debate has started 2 weeks ago, if you remember. And the Turkish Foreign Ministry official talked to the Turkish press, and he said that U.S. also accused Turkey in the past for supporting ISIS, and then they gave some documentations, and it's turned out that those documentations are false, and then Secretary Kerry apologized to Foreign Minister Çavuşoğlu personally.
Does this have something to do with the ISIL oil
smuggling? Yeah.
In fact, and again, you know, I'm an aging man who doesn't have quite the memory that he used to have, but I felt like we pretty strongly pushed back on the notion that was repeated by some journalists who aren't here today, that this was somehow some conspiracy that involved the highest levels of the Turkish government who were buying ISIL oil. And in fact, we had a senior State Department official who was very expert in energy and oil reserves and how this would work and be smuggled, come down and basically sit down with some of you in this room, I know, and basically pick that argument apart about how it would make no economic sense. And in fact, most of the oil that ISIL was able to draw from the ground was sold to third parties immediately and was kept mostly within Syria. And we were pretty adamant about pushing back against the notion that there was some, as I said, somehow that, you know, the Turkish government was aiding and abetting ISIL in selling off the oil that it was extracting from Syrian wells that it had captured. To the contrary, we said that, again, most of the oil that they pull out of the ground immediately goes into the trucks of smugglers who then oftentimes would sell it back to the Syrian government or the Syrian regime. So I don't know where that...
The thing is, this debate that the questions coming from the journalists who are trying to understand what's going on happened after the Russian jet incident at the end of 2015. But this official is referring to a conversation between the two leaders, to Foreign Minister Çavuşoğlu and Secretary Kerry at the end of 2014. Because Secretary Kerry gave a testimony in this U.S. Senate, and he said that ISIS is selling its oil through some neighboring countries to Syria, and one of them is Turkey. And then Çavuşoğlu asked an explanation from the Secretary Kerry regarding the Turkish press, and the Secretary Kerry gave some documentations based on these allegations, and then Turkish intelligence look at these documentations, and they turn out it's something else, not an ISIS facility or oil facility, but totally different, something totally different. And then Secretary Kerry apologized for this.
Well, I'm not aware of that, that he apologized in any way, shape, or form. What I can say is that this is something that we've looked at in great detail, and I think while we've said that you could never say 100% that no oil is being smuggled across the border of Syria and Turkey, certainly not in the last several years, certainly not in the last probably, you know, these are, you know, centuries-old smuggling routes that are hard to simply, shut down completely. But the allegations at the time were that this was somehow condoned or even involved the complicity of the Turkish government. And I don't think across the border we were always...
There's no apology.
I don't know. I'm unaware of one, if there was. Yeah, you, sir, in the middle.